Let's get right to it with Michael Yee and the breaking news on Biogen, moving the stock sharply higher. On this report, Michael, that Samsung is in talks to buy it for $40 billion. How much credence should investors put in this one?
Hey, great to be here with you. On one hand, I don't think it's totally shocking. Biogen has been a terrible stock all year, and they've had a lot of issues. And we've always said, look, when stocks get this cheap, they're potential takeout targets. On the other hand, it is an interesting buyer. I'm not sure how much credence to put in that. Of course, it's one report out of Korea. So, on balance, not shocking, but we need to pay more attention and see what develops.
They have a joint deal, I think, a joint venture, Michael, to develop biopharmaceuticals. So it's not completely out of nowhere that Samsung would be interested. What about the price, though? Biogen, as you mentioned, has been a pretty big underperformer. It's a little bit of a premium to Biogen's latest price, but nothing huge.
Yeah, and on one hand, I do think that it's interesting because the price is only at 25% premium to where it kind of was trading over the last 2 weeks. But what we are saying is that we think because of a major Alzheimer's readout later in 2022, and because of the huge valuation change that could result if this new Alzheimer's drug works, there might have to be a CVR, or contingent value right payment, that would have to be paid over time. So it may be a little bit of a complicated deal. There are deals that occurred with CVR payments as part of it. So without getting into too much of the weeds on that, it could be a reasonable price for the base business and a further CVR for whether Alzheimer's plays out. And that might be a good end result for Biogen shareholders.
Michael, I guess, as Sarah said, it's not a total surprise, but I had even thought that Samsung's major healthcare business was more medical devices than pharma. Either way, putting that to one side, is Biogen in a weak position at the moment? Will they have to accept any sort of offer, or do you see this now going quite dragging out, a bit wider bidding process and possibly others coming into play?
Well, I think the good news certainly for investors is this does present some sort of floor for the stock now that this seems to be out there and discussions could be ongoing. I do think there could be other suitors for Biogen, as we have said, big pharma, Pfizer, Merck, a lot of players aren't even in the Alzheimer's game. That said, while people may want the base business, and there is $10, $11 billion of other products out there, a biosimilars business, which they do share with Samsung, the Alzheimer's part would be a potential lottery ticket, call option, or CVR payment for the future. If it works, then the suitor could be, have that ticket in hand and pay for it if it does work. I hope that makes sense.
How likely is that to happen, Michael? Because there's been a lot of drama with this Biogen Alzheimer's drug and the FDA.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that's why a CVR could make sense. You have payments that are made as data hits, as things get approved, as sales milestones hit. Those things have happened in the past, but Genzyme and even Celgene and different players had those types of things when they had a takeout situation. So, look, I think it is plausible. And to answer your question directly, I think that Biogen is in somewhat of a weak situation. They lost their head of R&D a couple weeks ago. They've had significant turnover. There's a lot of media press about how the CEO is in a tight situation as well. And there is an activist type player on the board with Alex Denner. I would point that out as well. So look, I think all of those things seem to line up. Weaker situation, a takeout would be a good scenario, I think, with a CVR. So I hope that makes sense.